love it. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they not got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking the West, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and tonight our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Washington Wizards. I feel like we've played the Wizards like a million fucking times this year. Nevertheless, escaped with another W, 115-105 over the Wizards. And now the Cavaliers, if I am not mistaken, have won 11 straight against this franchise. Yo, they haven't lost in 3 years to Washington. Let that sink in. The last time the Cavaliers lost to the Washington Wizards, Kevin Love, Jetty Osman, Lamar Stevens, they were all very much big parts of the Cavaliers rotation. It has been that long since this team has lost to Washington. That said, this was an ugly game. It certainly felt like a slugfest at times due to a multitude of factors. Right off the bat, the Cavs' inability from the jump to string together multiple three-point makes. They made shots at the right times, mind you, right? They had triples drop at the right times, but overall on the game as a whole, it was pretty paltry. They shot they attempted 50 triples tonight. They attempted 50 total triples tonight and knocked down just 15. That is 30% from beyond the arc. No bueno. That is generally not going to win you most games. That combined with the fact that Washington at certain points just continue to drill triple after triple. Now, their stat sheet is not going to say that they shot all that well tonight. Just 35% from range themselves on 40 attempts, knocking down just 14. But they also just kind of seem to knock down shots to kind of go on these little mini runs to get themselves back into the games. And as many people in the chat are already pointing out, the Cavs, they got a lot of good looks. There were some open looks tonight that I felt that the Cavaliers normally would have knocked down, but they just did not go in, right? There were definitely possessions that left me scratch my head, just really ready to pull my hair out because it was a good possession. The ball movement was crisp, and they got a good shot attempt out of it, and it just didn't fall, right? That's why you see stat lines like tonight from DG and Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland shot just 6 of 17 from the field, including 3 of 10 from three-point range. Donovan Mitchell was 7 of 18, including 4 of 11 from distance. Dean Wade, Dean, you let me down, buddy. 1 of 8 from the field, including 0 of 7 from three-point distance in his 19 minutes. Sam Merrill, who I continue to go to bat for. I know a lot of people are ready to sit him down, and I know that things might change even more so into that territory once Max Strus gets back out on the court. But Merrill himself, not the best shooting performance. 3 of 10 from the field, including 3 of 9 from three-point distance. And for Sam in particular, these have become more and more of a common occurrence. Just 39.7% from the field on the season, including 34.9% from three-point range, which is surely going to drop after this one. But I remain a pretty big fan of Merrill. I think that what he's been able to do on the defensive end this season is not something that you can just simply throw away. Entering tonight's performance, Merrill had held up very, very well. I mean, he has literally limited his opposition prior to tonight's game to 68 to 159. That's good for 42.8%, which happened to be 43rd in the NBA among players with at least 100 defensive field goals attempted against them, right? So I continue to be a big fan of Sam Merrill. I think the three-point shot will eventually fall. He obviously has gravitational pull as you see people chasing him around screens like a madman, just flying around out there trying to navigate around him. I guarantee you, if you're down on Sam right now, I understand, but just pay attention from a ball movement standpoint, from just an off-ball movement for him in particular. Pay attention to the possessions that he has out there on the offensive end. See how often the defense is plastered to him. They don't let him get clean looks off at all. That is by far the biggest difference between this year and last year, where he shot 40.2% from range on the season as a whole. Kind of cooled off after the All-Star break after such a tremendous start. But this season, teams, they know where he's at. They are aware of him. They make sure to keep a defender on him all night long. And it's a key reason why those percentages are down. But he has been able to render himself an invaluable part of this Cavaliers rotation so far this year, despite that, because of his work on the defensive end, and honestly, in some areas that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like as a secondary playmaker and on the boards. Sam Merrill actually pulled down 6 rebounds tonight. But beyond them, the bench was mostly pretty good tonight. Caris LeVert, man, he had a big time performance. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He wasn't necessarily the most efficient, just 3 of 9, but I won't hold that against him because nobody, it felt, was efficient tonight outside of another player we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But he would go 3 of 10 from 3 of 9 from the field, including 0 of 3 from 3-point distance. But the biggest factor for Caris LeVert was the free throw line. Caris LeVert, if I am not mistaken, drew 7 fouls tonight. He got to attempt 12 free throws. And speaking of free throws, guys, I just want to point something out because this is not a team that shoots a ton of free throws on this season. I mean, I'm not lying when I said that. I think I just had this discussion with the host of the Fear the Fro podcast, Bob Schmidt. But the Cavaliers as a team, they attempt just 20.6 free throws per game on this season. That actually ranks 25th in the NBA, and they're not actually all that efficient as compared to some of these other teams that do get a massive amount of attempts. But the thing to me that really stuck out was the fact that they attempted 40 free throws tonight. Funnier than that is the fact that this team has now had 3 of their 7th highest free throw attempt totals against Washington. 3 of them. They took 40 tonight. They took 34, which was their previous season high against Washington back on October 26th. And then they took 25 back on December 3rd. I don't know what it is about Washington, but they have an affinity for the Cavaliers just seem to be able to draw a ton of contact or at least get a friendly whistle against this team. So keep it rolling. I hope it's something that can springboard them into matchups heading into the future. But we all know it's an imperfect science in terms of getting calls. It's never going to feel like it always goes your way. We always complain about the free throws and the lack thereof. But tonight, it was good to see them attempting 40. And some of that was inflated towards the end of the game. But, I mean, prior to I got my light over here flickering on and off. Might have to adjust that. But prior to the performance down the stretch of Washington's kind of fouling, the Cavaliers were able to generate a ton of contact. And that is something, my friends, that is it was very welcoming because I have not seen a ton of games this season in which they were able to do that. So very, very nice to see them get a ton of calls. And Caris, like I said, big proponent of that is he attempted 12 freebies. Now, the problem with the free throw attempts, as it looks like a fucking strobe light going on, I got a rave going on here. I'm going to take that light out midstream. Jesus. But the team as a whole, while they were able to generate a ton of free throw attempts, they were not able to drill a ton of them. 28 of 40. They left a lot of points at the line tonight, which could have made a difference. Thankfully, it did not, but they left 12 points off the board. Hate the fact that they weren't able to knock down more of their free throws. And they actually entered tonight's game knocking down, if I am not mistaken, just a hair under 78% of their free throws. 78% on the season, which ranks 16th league wide. So about middle of the pack. So they got to be able to do that. It will cost them against better teams. Washington, they're terrible, right? And they have some injury issues of their own, but they are 3-21 now 3-20, I think, right? 3-20 for a reason on this season. And part of the reason for that is just the insane talent gap between their squad and the rest of the teams in the East. It's tough, man. But I'll tell you what, one of the guys who definitely impressed me tonight, and it continues to impress me on this season as a whole, is Isaac Okoro. Oh my gosh. I feel vindicated in many ways. Isaac is not necessarily shooting it with a ton of volume, as he's just attempting, I think, 2.6 threes per contest. But the difference between this season and past seasons is the sheer confidence that he is showing. It's visual. Yeah, I know. Richard Hacker says disco light BG's music should be the background music. Yeah, man, it's bothering me. I'm trying so damn hard not to get up midstream and just unscrew the light bulb as it's getting ready to die. It looks like down here, one of the floodlights in my basement where I record at. But man, Isaac Okoro has been just absolutely fuego from beyond the arc this season. Just 2.6 attempts per game, but he has now shot 48.3% on the season as a whole after tonight's performance. That's 28 of 58. If you want to just throw out total attempts. And yes, I get it. That does not scream sharpshooter. It does not scream gravitational pull or spacing. But I'll tell you this. If he continues to do that, because I would not hesitate to say that about probably 90 to 95% of his looks are considered what the NBA deems wide open. I won't hesitate to say that if he continues to do such things like that, it's knock down the triple, teams are going to have to start sending a defender his way. It is going to happen eventually. And I get the whole argument, well, we don't really care until the playoffs start. Show us what you can do once the playoffs start. I get it. But we are a long way from there, and I can't just throw out what we've seen from him in the regular season. You can't just throw out that sample size. It is something that you build upon, right? You play the regular season games for a reason, and if he has the confidence that he has now to pull up from three-point distance or to catch and shoot the way that he has, I'll tell you what, he will be a dangerous weapon come the playoffs. Some people think that he should be moved at the deadline to acquire a bigger wing or a piece like a backup 4-5 that we could surely use. And you won't get an argument from me in terms of us needing a backup 4-5, but there is no realm to me that the Cavaliers should think about moving off of Isaac Okoro this season unless something happens, that an offer comes by their table across the desk of Kobe Altman himself that the Cavaliers just cannot refuse. He is not untouchable by any stretch of the imagination, but the way that he's played on not only the defensive end, but the offensive end, the spacing that he is now providing and looking like a dependable shot maker out there from range in his limited action, I think that is somebody that is going to be very, very valuable for this team moving forward. Now, the question is, when Max Strus comes back, which he was supposed to play tonight, damn, I was so excited once the news broke that Max Strus was going to be coming back Friday night against the Washington Wizards. And then it was immediately reported the following day that he would be out and that he wasn't going to make his season debut. I was devastated when that happened. But the question remains, once Strus comes back, who's out of the rotation? And that's going to be a tough ass conversation to have if people are playing the way that they are. I think the first people that may have a real conversation to be had around is probably going to end up being Sam Merrill and George Niang. I think those are the two guys who you might look at and say, you know what? You guys have been terrific so far during the stretch, but maybe we tailor your minutes back. You can make an argument for Dean Wade even, right? Dean, he has been abysmal from three-point range to start this season. It is not just Sam Merrill or Niang. It is Dean Wade to an extent too. George, prior to tonight, 36% from three-point distance. Dean Wade, you don't even fucking know what he's shooting from three-point distance. It's going to look way worse after tonight's performance. but I think I need to Google this midstream because he has been absolutely terrible from beyond the arc. 32.9% on this season entering tonight. Bad. Just absolutely bad. Just shooting from him. 0 of 7 from 3-point range tonight. 1 of 8 from the field as a whole. But yeah, man, these guys at the back end of the rotation, they're all going to kind of be fighting for those minutes. And I know that Kenny he is running an expanded rotation right now. They're in the early stretches of the regular season, but I do believe that he will probably kind of tailor that down, or at least kind of cut the minutes a little bit more and give the starters more minutes as the season rolls on. He's going to try and keep them upright for the most part and not put too much stress on their bodies. But I'll tell you what. I think that at the end of the day, you're going to have some real conversations about who deserves minutes on a night-to-night basis. Tonight, there were points where I was like, okay, Dean, it is just not okay. This is bothering me. I got to fix this. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, it is getting a little out of hand with the light back here. I got to undo it. It's getting crazy. But before I do that, Richard Hacker says, not understanding how Merrill was affected by Strus, different positions. Contrary to popular belief, Richard, Sam actually suited up a great deal of his minutes at the 3 last season. He is capable of playing both the 2 and the 3. And with Darius playing the way that he has to start the year, Donovan Mitchell being who he is, Ty Jerome and Caris LeVert being able to do what they do, yeah, you're going to have to try and find Sam minutes where you can. And small forward is one of those places where he can play. But the team has so many different players who are like multi-positional or have enough versatility to play 1, 2, and 3 different positions. So, yeah, the 3 is somewhere where his minutes will come. And the addition, even if it's not because it's just position by position, okay, Max is going to eat into Sam's directly. No, it's not necessarily just that. It's the simple fact that you're adding another rotation, a high quality role player back into the rotation. So everybody's minutes are going to be affected. But Sam Merrill, guys like him, they stand to really lose a lot. All right. And with that being said, I got to adjust this. Hold on. Oh, that's much better. I had to just unscrew that thing. That thing was getting ready to give me a seizure or something. But yes, Sam Merrill stands to lose some time. Dean Wade stands to lose some time. Hell, you can even see Caris and Ty Jerome be victims of this because Max Strus, he is kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none in terms of what you can get out of him. He is a quality secondary facilitator, right? Secondary playmaker out there. He is a pretty solid rebounder for his size. He is obviously a volume shooter. So he does a lot of these different things that these other players do, but he combines them into one package. And he's also no slouch defensively. So he can take bits and pieces of all these guys' games and kind of mesh them together. He may not excel at each and every one of them, but he can do just enough to take minutes from each and every one, right? And that, to me, is what is going to end up happening. I think that at this point in time, I want to say that Strus is going to re-enter the starting lineup, but that's going to be a difficult conversation for Kenny to have too with the likes of Isaac Okoro. It's tough because with the way that Isaac is played, and anybody who's playing at that 3 can expect limited touches as they try to elevate and prop Mobley up, and you're seeing Darius Garland kind of getting back to his all-star caliber ways. Anybody who plays that position at the 3 is going to need to be able to do 2 things, right? They're going to need to be able to hold their weight defensively, and they're going to need to be able to knock down the 3-point shot without the ball in their hands consistently, meaning you're going to get a lot of catch and shoot attempts. We know that Max Strus can do those things, and we know that he is considered a volume shooter based upon what we saw in years prior. not even just last year, but in his years with Miami. So I think that Max has to be the starter because of how connective that he can be. He's a big time connective piece of tissue. And I hate to use that phrase, but it sounds so cliche, but it really is probably the most apt description of what he does, because he does not need the ball in his hands to impact a game. His sheer movement out on the court, it draws gravity similar to the way that Merrill's does when you see him flying around screens. When he does have the ball in his hands, when he does get the opportunity to play make for others, we saw the chemistry that he developed with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in the DHO, right? The two-man game, because there's just so many different looks that you can get off of that and creating vertical spacing, right? I talked about this in my Strus video the other day. One of my favorite things that he is able to do when running that two-man game is, right, he opens the floor up, because you'll have a Jared Allen out there setting a DHO up for him, and he'll hit Max over the top as he's going in. They'll fake the DHO, they'll get the ball to Max, and then Max will immediately reroute it to a cutting big out there like Evan Mobley. So you have all of these guys out there doing their part, and you're creating vertical spacing in that way, because you're faking the DHO, you're hitting Max in stride, and then Max is able to reroute that and lob it up to an Evan Mobley for a pretty solid dunk attempt at the rim. It's just easy money. And you hear all these things, and I think people have kind of forgotten how good Max can be. But the problem that I have with people who don't believe in his ability is the fact that they're taking what they saw from Max in one season, mind you, in one season with JB Bickerstaff from an offensive standpoint at the helm. I think everything that we saw last year in regards to the offense, we kind of have to compartmentalize that, right? We should be able to compartmentalize that and kind of throw it off to the side, because how many of these guys are we seeing having return to form seasons or career years, right? You're seeing that shit from Ty Jerome. You're seeing it from Isaac Okoro. You're seeing DG get back to his ways. You're seeing George Niang have an impact in other ways than simply just shooting the basketball. His driving, it's been phenomenal this year. People don't talk about it enough. And I think Max, from a pure ball movement standpoint, the off-ball movement that he brings to the table, I think that you would be foolish to write him off immediately, as some people do, right? I think that he is tailor-made for this offense. And so that's where I'm at with Max. I think that when he comes back, he's going to get a high minute role, whether he's off the bench or he's starting. I just think that it makes the most sense to include him back into the rotation, because he is that impactful. We got to throw away a lot of what we saw last year, because I kid you not, I was doing my research for that video. One of the things that impressed me the most was the fact that 1.8 of Strus's 6.8 3-point attempts from distance last season were considered tightly defended. That is actually the 17th best mark in the NBA. It was the 17th highest mark in the NBA last year. Defenses respect his ability to shoot. It was actually second on the Cavs over players like Sam and DG. It was only second to Donovan Mitchell by 0.2 attempts. They respect his ability to shoot. And he barely got open looks last year. So one can only assume that in an offense where the ball is constantly moving, right, there isn't as much stagnation as there have been in past seasons. With the off-ball movement that he can bring to the table as not only a three-point marksman, but a solid-ass cutter too, one can only assume that he's going to have one of his best seasons yet, if not his best season outright. Now, from a pure point production standpoint, I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going to look like, because the touches are going to be down as they try and prop Mobley and DG up. But Strus, he does not need the ball in his hands to be effective. And I apologize. I'm not trying to turn this into a Strus podcast or a Strus stream, but I got to get it out of my system, because I think he is nearing his return, and I cannot wait till he gets back out there. But this performance as a whole, despite the ugly shooting, despite the ugly perimeter defense at times, it was something that the Cavaliers, they were able to navigate through their contact at the rim and through knocking down shots at the right time, and just Kenny Atkins pulling the right levers at the right time. So and to me, one of the biggest things that he did tonight was in that fourth quarter, when he saw that Dean probably was not going to have enough of an impact, what did he do? He inserted Caris LeVert to close the game out. They went with DG, Donovan, Isaac, Caris, and Jared Allen, if I'm not mistaken. That to me speaks volumes. They trust everybody on their team. Everybody will have their games. Everybody won't have their games. And as long as Kenny Atkinson can just pull the right levers when needed, it's going to be fine. It's going to be good. No matter if it's Washington or Boston, they'll find ways to figure it out. And so moving forward, the team has some work to do, but I'll tell you what, the time off, it certainly felt like it impacted the rhythm. And I hope that does not continue to be a consistent theme. The Cavaliers' next game will come against the Brooklyn Nets on Monday at 7:30. That should be one to pay attention to. Hopefully Max Strus comes back for that, but I don't know. I need the Cavaliers to go out and dominate, right? I need a dominant performance after watching this game tonight. And I felt like they could have done that tonight, but they got the looks. They just couldn't knock down the fucking shots. And so if they are able to do that against Brooklyn, it should be just fine. But man, it was great to get this team back, because after 4 or 5 days off, I was just like, man, I'm so ready to watch this team play. It has just been such a fun season, and we haven't even gotten to see them play at full strength yet. And not all of these guys are playing, top of their games yet, when we're talking about players like Sam and Dean not being at their apex. And obviously we don't have Strus back yet, but just so many different things, so many different positives to look forward to for this team. And hopefully as we near the trade deadline, the Cavaliers address some of the holes on the roster. If there was one issue that I took tonight, it was the fact that we didn't get to see JT Thor. I thought we might, but Kenny Atkinson decided to roll with Tristan Thompson as the backup 5 in those minutes, and played a lot, relied on Niang heavily in this game. And, Niang had a very, very solid game, but Tristan, I just, at this point, if you can't get on the floor against a 3-win Washington team when you don't have Evan Mobley, I just don't know when you can get on the floor. I am really looking forward to the day that we see JT Thor get consistent minutes. And I get it. Jonas Valanciunas, 270 pounds out there, 7-footer. If you're going to play JT backup 4, backup 5 minutes, that's a tough man to handle. But it's kind of like the mentality of wanting to see what these guys have against an inferior opponent. I thought tonight would have been the perfect opportunity to get JT Thor some time. I'm not even asking for Jalen Tyson. I'm literally just saying, hey, Evan Mobley didn't play. Why can't we get JT Thor out there? But they rolled with Tristan Thompson, and I thought that he did provide some impact from a defensive standpoint, because he is a big body out there, and placing him upon Jonas Valanciunas, it certainly makes sense from a matchup standpoint. Just having a beefier guy out there, and make no mistake, he still has Jonas still has some pounds and some size on Tristan even, but Tristan obviously can hold up much, much more than a JT Thor would be able to in that position. So that was really my only gripe outside of the poor shooting at times tonight. But time will tell in regards to the JT Thor of it all. And I think that about does it for this one. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot I said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you're watching over on X, do your boy a favor. Go over to YouTube. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber of the It's Cavalier podcast. And hit that notification bell so you never miss out on a piece of Cavs content. I've been lucky enough to live stream every single game, win or lose. That is now, if my math is correct, I'm not the best at math, by the way, 26 games. I've gone live 26 times this year, and I'm going to continue to try and go live as much as humanly possible. And I appreciate you guys' continued support and just conversing with me, because this has just been such a fun season, and hopefully it continues to be fun. That said, Go Cavs. Have a good weekend.